Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be looking at garage sale fishing gear for self-reliance. So having a pond on the property allows me to take kids fishing quite a bit. A lot of times my kids' friends come over, they don't fish a lot, nieces, nephews. There's all kinds of kids who don't usually get to fish, and it's great to take them out there and get them into fish fairly quickly. So what that means is I need to have a lot of inexpensive, easy to use fishing gear around the house. So what that usually leads us to is a simple closed face push button style fishing reel. This is what I started with. This is probably what most of you started with. I thought this would be a real simple video. I thought the Zebco line, the Zebco 33 is the real common one. I thought there would be a lineage to this, but I can't find it. I've got tons of these things and the numbers run all over. So historically, I don't know what the first Zebco model was. I don't know what the biggest seller was. This one happens to be a 202. I've got some 33s. I've got different numbers, as well as different manufacturers, but they all function the same. They're all push button, closed face reel, very, very simple to get kids fishing quickly. The problem is they don't make these like they used to. The modern closed face reels are junk. I've got several of them for fishing derbies when the kids were small that I took them to. I've bought several trying to get a couple new sets and keep them maintained, but they're plastic, they're junk, they don't seem to work that well. So in my quest to keep quality fishing gear around the house, I've had to go to vintage gear. Now this is right out of a barn garage sale here. My brother-in-law actually set me up. He got me a bundle of rods and reels, and I just really haven't had time to get into them. This one happens to be a Shakespeare. The age on these things, I really have no idea. They probably are as old as I am, if not older. These cork handles, or some of them are in disrepair. I go through them. If the rods look brittle, I'll give them a couple bend tests. A lot of times the eyes will be rusted. But for very little money, you can put a little bit of time and have a quality reel that's better than what you can buy in the store now. So we talked about how inexpensive they are, how they're better quality than is currently available, and how easy they are for kids and new fishermen to use. But how does that work into self-reliance? Well, first off, this is not my choice of a mainline fishing gear. If I was going on a fishing trip, this would not be my first choice, obviously. But this is something that I could pick up for $1 or $2, clean up the reel, oil it, put fresh line on it, and keep it in my vehicle and have it when I need it. I have more expensive pack rods that fold up into smaller pieces, but this is something I could casually carry. If the reel got damaged, if the rod got damaged, so be it. If the reel ever was to take a crap, I've still got the rod. If the rod breaks a tip off, this reel, like I said before, is better quality than the current Zebcos being made. Another aspect of self-reliance with a vintage reel like this is just the fact that you can get more lines in the water. So you get a family of 4 to 6 people, you can get them outfitted for probably $10 to $12, and no matter how small they are, after a few minutes of instruction, they're going to be able to cast the reel and reel efficient. So what's some disadvantage to using vintage gear like this for fishing? Well, number one, it's probably been mistreated most of its life. This is the kind of stuff that just slid around in a pickup truck. Kids use it, cast with it, lay it down on the ground. It was no different than when I was a kid, but it seems like it's a lot worse now. This thing just sits in the corner of a barn waiting for somebody to go fish with it. So another disadvantage to this closed face push button style reel is a lot of times they just get tangles real bad. Kids won't be paying attention. They won't keep tension on the line. They'll have a knot in the line, they'll reel it up into it, and it causes a big problem. A lot of times when they try to cast, they'll get 10, 12 feet consistently and their lure will hit the brakes in midair and drop to the ground. It's hard to assess that with the bail on. A lot of times you have to take the cover off. Same things reeling fish in. A lot of times that's when you find out that there's a problem with the rod or there's a knot and they can't reel it past that point. Nothing that can't be overcome, and at the expense of a garage sale quality rod and reel like this, I usually take a couple extra with me so I can repair them while the kids are still fishing. So buying these in lots like you do a lot of times at a garage sale, you can buy them all for the same price. Some of them work, some of them don't work. This one is a South Bend. Lord only knows how old it is, but it's made in the USA, so you're not going to find that very often anymore. And I do see a small dent in the cover. The first thing you're going to do with this is break the rods down and just work on the reels for right now. All right, so with the reel off the rod, again, this is a spin cast 66. They're all a little bit different. We're going to take the cover off and just assess, see what's going on with this thing. There is no line on it. It spins free. It's dirty. You can see when it casts and clicks over. You can hear the drag working. I'm going to break all of them down to this state, and then we're going to clean them. So this one here, this is a Sport Fisher 200. This one's in a little rougher shape. With the cover off, it's got a little bit of line on it, but it all seems working. I will go ahead and a little bit of rust on here too. I'm not digging that. I'm going to go ahead and take all the line off, break them all down, and then I'm going to blow them off at the air compressor. Now this old Shakespeare Wonder, I had a heck of a time getting this apart. Sometimes you're better off just not forcing things. In this case, I'm unable to get the reel off the rod. This is going to back down and allow the reel to slip out of the seat, but in this case it's just all seized up. But you can hear the metal ringing in there, and you can also hear it's dry as a bone and dirty. So I'm going to leave it on, and if it's the reel is serviceable and the rod breaks or vice versa, I'm just going to switch them out and use them for parts. But rather than break it, just trying to force it off and make it do what I want to do, I'm just going to leave it in place, and we'll clean it right on the rod itself. So we're trying to be low buck about this, but one thing you definitely have got to do on these is put new line on it. And when you're disposing of the old fishing line, definitely don't just leave this laying around. This is no good to anybody. So dispose of it properly, but you're going to put all this time and effort into making these serviceable fishing poles again. There's no sense waiting until you catch a big fish to figure out that the line's bad. All right, so I got the line all stripped off of these, and they're cleaned out. Did most of the work in a utility sink. I had to use like a scraper to get inside the gearing. So as much as I complain about the Zebcos, I do have a couple of the 202s. I've got a 33. You know, it's the most common one that I'm aware of, but they come apart very easy. You can see the inside gearing. Anytime I had grease, the grease was just nasty. All of these were just, you can't comprehend how dirty they really were. I don't clean my own that often. If they're real bad, sometimes I'll, run them through the pond. But as far as a formal cleaning, not so much. And the older ones that I got from a garage sales, no go on those. Who knows? They were probably drugged behind a tractor for 20 years before I got them from the looks of them. But the Zebco comes apart quite a bit easier than some of the other models. I did find a loose screw on one that I was having problems with. Tighten that back down. I did not go crazy with any type of degreaser. Just a word of caution with this. A lot of these, even though these have steel gears, the plastic parts, a lot of the degreasers and some of the spray lubricants just eat the plastic up. Blaster, for example, just kills plastic. And if you were to just coat this with degreaser or put it in a degreasing a bath of any type, you would get grease out of places that you can't put grease back into. So that's something to be aware of with anything like this. But they're turning freely now. I am going to lube just a little bit of all the wear points, or all the spinning contact points, with just a little bit of WD-40 just to get them freed up. It's going to help prevent the rust, and not really going to do much about any of these that have rust on them. Here's a good example. This handle's rusty, spins great. It's one of the better feeling reels I've got. This little chrome thing's peeling on it. That's all superficial. As far as the reel itself, spins better than the Zebcos, to be honest, but doesn't look the best. So I'm not going to really worry about this. I'm just going to hit it real light with a WD-40 on all the moving parts of these, not go crazy with it at all, and then we're going to put some line on it. All right, so the only thing left to do is put some fresh monofilament on it. Staying with the low buck, this is just extra spool I've got. This is like 10. When I run out of this, I'll probably go to an 8 that I've got around. You don't want to be light on the line with these because, again, if you're using these because an opportunity comes to catch some fish, you're probably after food. If it's kids reeling fish in, you don't want to have them lose a fish when they could just get the thing on the line. This is minimal sport fishing here. But again, I've got 7 vintage push button closed faced rod and reels, and I've probably got less than 20 bucks on them. These things are going to last a long time. They're probably 20 years old to maybe 40 years old, and they've got a lot of life left in them. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon.